Okay.
So, all right. So, how you doing this morning?
Pretty good. My allergies are kicking my butt a little bit, but besides that, I'm ready to rock and roll.
All right, rock and roll, two of my favorite things in the world. Anyways, we're here talking NAMs, and I think everybody knows you, and we got a few people who've jumped in, and we got an open seat. If you guys anytime want to come in, ask us a question, give us your feedback. And I see Jeff's here, and we got a handful of other people showing up, so this is awesome. Phil's here. Anyways, Niall, he subscribed. He hasn't shown up yet. I'm not 100% sure.
Hi, guys.
Hey, so let's talk NAMs. It was a long week, a lot of great stuff, and had a bunch of great takeaways from it. I think it was a time well spent. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love NAMS.
Me too. So, what were some of your highlights? What were some of the things that you found to be the most melding, whatever you want to call it?
Well, let me just say this too, that I started going to NAMS with NAMS 3. So this would have been, 11? So was that 5.5 years or whatever?
Hmm.
And I originally started going because I liked the instructors that were in the lineup. People like Jeff Herring. Hi again, Jeff. Were people who I was following at the time, and it was being promoted as no, pardon me, no pitch, and hang out with the instructors. And I like that. I think there's a big benefit to that. So learning things in the rooms, I think, is fabulous. The weekly things that go on online is fabulous. But the ability to sit and talk to people like Jeff Herring or you or Kathleen Gage or what were there, 140 instructors, I think, in the 14 NAMs
Yeah.
that David has put on.
Hmm.
So a lot to learn from there, whether it's video or whether it's pay-per-click or social media, content marketing. I mean, lots of different things. There were two words that kind of stuck with me after I left NAMS, and it seems like making things simpler was one of the themes, especially the, the things that the instructors were talking about. And I'm all for that. And, I think you can get bogged down in all of the details and the minutia and things like that. And so sometimes doing things a little more simply. The other was automation. How can you put this on autopilot? And those were a couple of my biggest takeaways. I love the keynotes. I didn't have a chance to hang out in all of the breakout rooms. But I thought it was time very well spent. And then you and I, as instructors, got into the instructor mastermind, and I have many pages of notes there, and I'll share some or all of that with you if you want. And then the VIP mastermind after that. That's what made it a pretty long week,
Right.
to tack on 2 days of mastermind after 4 days of conference. But what about you? What were your biggest
Well,
takeaways?
a handful of big takeaways. One of the ones that I was most impressed with was Jim Edwards, who got up and he talked. And he talked about the concept of, because I do a lot of course development. I mean, I've got, gold group coaching and all the other things. Hey, one of the shameless self promotions that I forgot to do before, and that was to say that we're coming from CBS here, Central Bacon Studios. So I want to let everybody know that, hence the bacon in the background. But Jim Edwards talked for a while, and the thing I got from him, which I loved, was the concept of principles versus tactics. And that,
Yeah.
that was something that really, struck a chord with me, because I mean, I understand the concept, but I never really thought about it in course development. And principles are the foundations that people need to learn, where tactics are the way that you could learn it. So, a principle is you need to have a website. That's a principle. The tactic is, do you use WordPress? Do you use Optimize Press? Do you use this plugin, that plugin? Those are all tactics, So, but the principle is you got to have a website. So the thing that he said is principles are the foundation of training, and then put your tactics in a different silo or different class or different piece of media that you're putting out there, so that as tactics change, you can go back and just change the tactics without having to do the entire course. So that was huge for me.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic also, just from an update standpoint. But he even said if you're talking about doing something in Word, whatever, 01, 2010, 2016, or whatever, it's going to change a little bit. So you would just have the options for people in the course, depending on what version of Word that they're
Right.
using.
That was great too. It's having a legacy of different versions of stuff that are out there too. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, there were a lot of great moments. And then, like you said, I mean, I got a chance to sit down with, some of the instructors afterwards in the lobby. And, of course, we were up every night till 2 o'clock in the morning trying to suck in as much NAMS time from people as we could. And one other thing about this Blab today, what happened in our room stays in our room. Okay. We don't want anybody to know anything that went on there because we were roomies for the week. So, just let's keep that quiet between you and me. Yeah, exactly. But sitting down with, some of the instructors and getting one-on-one time with them, sitting down with some of the attendees and getting one-on-one time with them. Because that's one of the things about being an aide is you're in the room, pretty much the whole time. And then you have to, in order to get that time with people, you have to do it after hours, after the conference is finished. So, but it was cool. So give me some. You actually won the award. Nobody knows this, but you won the award for the person at NAMS who took the most notes. Hence why I wanted to have you on this morning. So congrats on that award.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Took the most notes.
Yes.
Huh?
So what were in some of those notes? What were some of the things that you saw that really kind of gave you some insight and did some stuff for you?
Well, first we started off with Dr. Ben Adkins from Fearless Social, talking about product and sales copy and the buy button and how really, at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. You have to have a product or maybe a service. You have sales copy and you have a buy button. And I think for a lot of people, they don't get beyond that. It's kind of daunting. And I'll bring up something that Bob, the teacher who emceed much of NAMS 14, is famous for saying, and that is take action, revise later. Or another friend says, done is better than perfect. And so you heard a little bit of this at NAMS 14 was just the idea of get it up, get it out there. Who was, we're not going to name names, but it may have been somebody in the VIP mastermind the last day. They were hung up on the idea of, well, when it's perfect, when I have everything together, and everybody was jumping on them saying, no, get it up, get it going. I know who it was. And she sold product at that mastermind.
Right, exactly.
She was encouraged and pushed. And so that's one of the other benefits of a conference like this is to have somebody who's not only coaching you, but encouraging you and supporting you and helping you get from point A to point B.
Exactly. And that's it. I mean, in the masterminds, I think that's really where it came to fruition for a lot of people. Because there was probably 25, 30 people across all the masterminds the 2 days. And between, there was a lot of masterminding going on. Between an attendee mastermind, there was an instructor mastermind, then there was a VIP mastermind. And Jeff Herring is sitting here saying, Jeff's saying that he's got proof of us, and Felicia says she loved her mastermind session. She did. She had an awesome mastermind session. I got to sit in on a little bit with Brian G. Johnson. So. But the mastermind time, I think, is where people, the concepts are the concepts, but getting the work done is the hard part. And I think it's a fear that held a lot of those people back. It's like, if I don't do it right, it's not going to sell. But the bottom line is you don't do it, it's not going to sell.
Exactly.
And that's where, was it Eve, I think her name is who had the genealogy thing. There was people that had some really great concepts and just needed to start the process, and get some concept of where they wanted to end up. I think that's one of the other things too, that, sometimes it's hard to see the end goal of what it is that you're trying to produce. You've got these grandiose ideas, but then you've got to kind of narrow it down so it's a little bit more specific. Because I think another thing that I really learned and again, it was one of the offline masterminds, was how to really niche out your audience based on their buying cycle, not just who they are, but what their buying cycle is. Do they know you yet? Are they familiar with you? Are they hot? What is their, what's driving them? Is it pleasure or pain? It's like, you've got to understand those pieces and figure out exactly where they're at in that buying cycle and talk to them the way they want to be talked to. So that was another thing that was interesting.
Right, and I think that's really very important, is to understand your buyer persona. Matt Basak calls them avatars, but who are they? And there's almost always more than one. I've done them for clients where we've named them based on. So we did one for a fitness center down the road here, and so Roberta was 50 years old and beginning to slow down and had some joint pain, and then there was Rob, who was, heavy metal, pump and iron, 20-something. Two entirely different people, but they were using the same facility. And to understand who they are, what their needs are that you can fulfill, and then where they hang out, you really need to understand that if you're going to be successful. And then, as Ben was saying, product, sales, copy, and the buy button. So that's all very important stuff. And when you understand that, then that helps you with the copy that you need, and also finding them and promoting your product or service.
Yeah. And Ben, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to go on with Ben a little bit.
Sure, go on. No, go on. And Sheila's trying to call in. It's Sheila Finkelstein. So, all right. Well, keep going. Keep going, because she hasn't quite gotten on yet.
All right. Well, Ben talked about retargeting. He was talking a lot about Facebook ads, which I think are very important. And again, if you understand your buyer, then you understand where to advertise to them on Facebook. But he was talking about retargeting, and even if you're not ready for retargeting right now, that you should go get a retargeting pixel and put it on your website, so that in essence you're building this list, right? A lot of people don't understand that that's a list, that when you are ready to offer something, the people who have come to your blog have already been cookied with that pixel, and you can start running ads to them. It's one pixel for everything. It's not a different pixel for each different page. And the other thing is that all of the big and successful marketers are starting with a budget of $5 a day. So you can figure out if it's going to work or not for relatively small dollars. And then you can scale it up. But don't go in there saying, okay, I'm going to throw 500 at it and let's see what happens. A lot of people were talking about how somebody had gone in and run a couple $100 worth of Facebook ads and didn't get anything out of it. And Facebook ads don't work. They do if they're done properly.
Yeah,
and retargeting for 2 to 3 months or so. So that's a great idea.
Right, and he talked about A/B testing things too as well. Throwing $5 at this, $5 at that, and see which one's working. And the building of custom audiences. Knowing your current clients and creating a list with them. Prospects, people that have been to webinars and things like that. Create a list with them. I mean, just constantly have these different lists. And it's not too different than the philosophies you use in email marketing. It's just a different platform and a different methodology. And that was interesting. Right. I found that very interesting. Right. Sometimes you just get those ahas when all of a sudden it just says, oh, that makes sense. So Sheila, we're not seeing you. You might want to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop you and then see if you can call back in, because Blab does that sometimes. So I'm going to drop you and then hopefully you can hear us and then call back in. All right. So let's try that. So anyways, yeah, that was great. You got anything else from Ben that you had?
Oh, he was talking about, getting started with the ad editor. That's at business.facebook.com. You have to get their attention. You do some retargeting and then follow up in 24 hours. So you click the green button, create the ad, you set up a campaign, an ad set, and then ads within there. And like you were talking about a minute ago, A/B testing. Facebook will help you with that because they want the most successful ads to run because they make more money that way. But you should always be split testing and trying to beat your bogey. And I mean, some people take it to the max. They'll have 9 different ads going and just changing maybe one thing, the headline or the image or the copy or something or other, and see what works out of that. He said the biggest fails, we're not getting people's attention. And you have to get them off of Facebook. And the big campaigns have a lot of text in their ads.
Yeah.
So knowing a little bit of this and giving you an edge, Matt Basak, who was there, love Matt, always talks about what can I multiply.
Mm-hmm.
So he's looking at the whole funnel and saying, well, what can I multiply? Can I multiply audience? Can I multiply conversion? Things like that. And I think that's a smart way of doing it. You have to analyze what you're doing once you get started. The important thing is to get started.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of people get overwhelmed, because if you don't have something in mind and complete, it's really, really hard to say, okay, let's go in and look at Facebook retargeting and all these other what I consider to be higher level advertising techniques. And these are the tactics, but the principle gets back to, you've got to have something to sell. It doesn't matter whether it's $5, $500, or $5,000. You have to have something to sell. And that's where I think a lot of people get hung up. It's like, well, what do I do? How much do I price it at? Will they buy? The only way is put it out there and try. You can always raise the price. You can lower the price. But get something, right?
Well, you can build a list too. So, or you could build traffic to a blog post that especially has a call to action that you want on it. I mean, there are a number of reasons that you would use Facebook advertising.
Mm-hmm.
But, get started. You want more from Dr. Ben?
Sure.
The perfect ad has a picture with eyes looking at you rather than eyes looking away, eyes looking at you. Colors the contrast. No red borders. A lot of people did that. We've all seen ads with red borders, kind of attracts your attention, but I think it looks a little cheesy a little bit. Pink, blue, and purple are good colors. Look like a friend. Briefly, well, headlines are big. Case studies work very well. Ask for likes. Who likes a sales page? Why do likes matter? You were there for that, right?
I didn't. I missed that one piece. Yeah. Why do likes matter?
Yeah, because obviously the more likes, the better. But your ads go down. Your ad costs go down.
Right.
The more likes that you have. The other big mistake, and he said the gurus don't talk about, is most people kill their ads too quick.
Mm-hmm.
You should really run them for a week rather than a day or two. So at $5 a day to get started, you're talking a $30 investment maybe to find out if it's going to help. And if you get people to share your ad, then you're getting advertising for free, and people will share Facebook ads because it makes them look smart.
Absolutely. Hey, we got an open seat if anybody wants to jump in, comments, questions, just say hi, give us a woohoo or woo-woo. Anyways, so that's, Dr. Ben, I mean, that was just one session, and that was amazing. He had so much stuff in there. What were some of your other favorites?
Let's see. I've got more and more pages from Dr. Ben.
Like I said, you won the note-taking award for the weekend because you took lots of copious notes.
For some of these people, and I really appreciate the people who were typing stuff out. I just didn't have time to have my laptop open all the time, but would love some of those notes. So we talked about Jim Edwards at the beginning of this Blab, and I was pretty impressed with the things that he was talking about, and the fact that he's still making money on products that he produced years and years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really evergreen products. And like you were talking about, he was talking about principles versus tactics and how it's easy to update the tactics. And the tactics are really kind of, there's a lot of places where you can find the tactics, but maybe more about the why or the strategy or something, I think is going to make something a little bit more valuable.
Right.
The tactics or tools often change, so teach principles. Fastest way to minimize risk: create info products and links where you isolate each tactic. So in a PowerPoint, we were talking about this earlier. There's different versions of like PowerPoint, 2010, 2013, 2016. They're all a little bit different. So if you create it for 2010 and then 13 comes out, then you leave those in there.
Right.
But his first info product came out in 1997, and it was how to sell a house on your own. And he says he makes money on it every week from that. Who wouldn't want to do that? And also, these products are not only income opportunities, but they're opportunities to promote other things, right, and to kind of build your brand. Connie Reagan Green is an expert at doing that, creating things that people
right.
share. So define a problem, create an ebook to solve the problem, and then use a quick write process. And Jim has a number of products that he's offering to help people. So another question was, what could change the world and make this product obsolete? So isolate principles and tactics. Focus on problems people will always have. So what else did you get away from Jim Edwards?
I got a ton from there, but we got a question from Ellen. I wanted to jump on. I think this was back at the Dr. Benston. She says, doesn't Facebook restrict the amount of text in your ad? I thought it was like 16% of the image area. Now, in the actual picture, you can only have text in 20% of the picture. When it comes...
Right, and there's a grid tool for that to check.
And what's that tool? Do you remember?
The Facebook grid tool. I think if you search for that, it'll
Gotcha,
up.
Facebook grid tool. So that way you can check your ad. And I've heard, this again gets down to not only talking to Dr. Ben, but some other people who are Facebook ad people, is that ads with text don't perform as well as just ads with no text. It's the image. If you have the image alone, and like you said, somebody looking at you, somebody friendly, somebody not looking away, nice colors. If you add text to the image, it looks more like an ad. If you leave it just organic, it looks more like a post. And that's one of the things that I've learned over the course of time. Now, Facebook, depending.
That's something to test.
Yeah,
too,
it is
right?
definitely something to test. Right. And then the other thing is that depending on how you're doing your ads, I mean, there's different ways. You go to business.facebook.com is one way. You can go just in the regular ads manager from your own personal account. You can go to there's a developer console. I had it in my head and I just lost it. But there's like a super high-end version of ad creation that's in there, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And then there's Boost. Each one of those have different interfaces with different text limitations. Now I haven't played with business and ad manager enough to say there is a huge difference, but I know there is some difference between those. So
well, and I would recommend against using Boost. The Boost button is really totally in Facebook's favor, and you just don't have the targeting opportunities that you have if you kind of lay it out a little bit differently. So I think that was discussed at NAMS, but people have been talking about that for quite a while. So don't be tempted to use Boost for anything on Facebook. Go in and actually create the ads.
And then Ellen said, I'm reading here, she said, not sure if you mentioned it, Kurt, but Ben set up a Facebook page that looks like a person. Comment. So what he did is he went in and set up a separate Facebook page as a person to do ads on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather just do them under my own name anyways, because I've got that brand recognition, unless I'm trying to do it for a third party, which is different. But I would say, why not build on the brand that you already have? But he's the expert. I'm just kind of playing around. And then she says, Ellen asked Jim afterward how he segregates principles and tactics in his products. And he said he uses models and has a modules. Thank you. And dashboard with links to them. So he can easily delete a link and dashboard and switch out a module if something changes. Said it looks more like a post. It was a page, but set up that looks like a person. Oh, I see what Felicia's saying. He's using a business page that looks like a person. So, or brand page or business page or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, you could do that. And as far as I use Wishlist Member, and Wishlist Member has a dashboard built into it, or actually it's a plugin that they give you. And so you can set up those modules, and then at least when I do it, somebody gets to a page, there's, each one of those modules has all the content in there. Literally just change out the content. I mean, it's not that hard. It's just link it to new stuff, upload new stuff, make sure it's protected, and just relink it.
And you have a system, right? And that's what we talked about getting things done. The system that you start off with may not be the system that you end up with, but get it started.
Right.
And have a plan, and don't wait maybe until the plan is complete. Just get up and run.
Right. Yeah, it's better to just again, it was Margaret Eves Jeff put in there. I always think of her as Eve, but it's Margaret Eve. It's the person doing the genealogy. And then there was the lady who was doing was it Margaret who sold like 4 or 5 of them just in the mastermind, I think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She just, immediately they got her convinced, it's like, sell it now and build it after, as people come into the thing. And I've learned that a long time ago.
And I think she was surprised too when people were saying, well, Margaret, I'd buy this. I mean, I'd buy it right now. Do you have a buy button? And she was like, no. And so Jen Purdue was helping her with that. And by the end of the day, she had sold several of them. So that was kind of proof to everybody in the room about, get her done.
Right. Exactly. So what else from Jim's did you take away? What else?
Yeah, I just want to share a couple of different things. He thinks starting with an interview can be one of the best ways. And, I might defer to Jeff Herring on this, who's kind of the king of content marketing. You can teach principles in the interview, supplement with tactics, tools, and chunks. What is your angle? So it could be the beginner's guide to whatever. It could be frequently asked questions. In fact, I'm doing that now with one of my clients. A couple of weeks ago, I said, you should really put a blog together, and let's start off with frequently asked questions. And then we're also doing a series based on, they sell a number of different products. And so a different series on what are the benefits of each of these products. And then at the end, of course, have a buy button. Another angle is mistakes people make. He was talking about 3 different points of view also, right? You can do it as the expert. I've been there, I've done it, I know it, right? You can be the reporter, where you don't necessarily have to be an expert at what you're doing, or you could take people along with you for the ride as a student and say, well, I'm not an expert in whatever this is, but let's work on this together. So I thought those 3 different points were pretty good.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot too. It gave permission to a lot of people who didn't feel like they were an expert, the ability to actually start putting their stuff out there. I thought that was very important.
Right, and a lot of people wait because they don't think that they know it all yet, and you don't have to. You can say, let's take this journey together.
Yeah, so I found that was incredibly interesting. So again, we've got an open seat if anybody wants to jump in, say hi, have a comment, question, or just give their feedback about NAMs. I know you're also shy, especially Jeff and Felicia. They're incredibly shy.
Who?
Jeff Herring, he's very shy, and Felicia, she's very shy. Yes. So we went through Jim, we went through Ben. Was there anybody else who really super impressed you?
Matt Basak.
Of course. Yeah, that was.
And it was interesting. He was sort of a last minute guest or instructor, and they asked him to talk about confidence, and he shared a story about his son that I didn't know about, and things are all going very well, and his son is playing baseball, and they're winning and doing great things, and so that was fantastic. And Matt also does a lot with his daughter, and one of the things they like doing together is watching Shark Tank. And isn't that a fabulous show? So he had, I think it was 15 things I learned from watching Shark Tank with my daughter. Be clear on what you want. Don't trip over pennies on your way to dollars. Focus on the customer, not on yourself. Know your numbers. and doing radical split tests. Again, that's where I mentioned this earlier, where he was talking about what can I multiply.
Right.
So you have to know your numbers to do that. Master the art of the pitch. Here's what you're going to get. Here's the benefit. What gives me the right to coach you or sell you on this or whatever. Here's what to do next is always something important to share at the end. Most questions are buying questions. Work them into the presentation, especially as you do it on a regular basis. You're going to have, a lot of people will work the objections that they always get on a webinar or a live presentation into the next presentation, so that you're meeting that head on. Don't be blinded by passion. Just because your friends and family love your idea doesn't mean it's a good idea. And conversely, I would say that if your friends and family don't understand the idea, it doesn't mean it's a bad idea either. I think you can flip that. Concentrate on core competencies. The best businesses solve real problems. If you're not making money, it's just a hobby. That's a very good point. If you get what you ask for, take it. You talked a little bit about people then, wanting to, whatever, I don't know. What is your objective when you do a blog post, a Facebook ad, a webinar, a Blab, or whatever? If you get what you want, then take it. And some people, I think, kind of vacillate a little bit. Customers want to see that you have other customers. I thought that was a big.
I like that too.
Take.
Yeah.
You can't multiply a zero. There we go with what can I multiply. If you're not consistent, you're non-existent. I like that. And then embrace the hero's journey. And he went on and talked a little bit about the hero's journey and, how most Hollywood movies have it. And it's just a way of defining a script. I think they say in Hollywood that there's really only 7 or 11 or 8 or whatever stories, and they just sort of rewrite them with different characters, but it has the same arc, or whatever. He has a new book coming out, by the way, that I want to read. I'll just mention it here. It's Millionaire Mind. I think it's coming out in a month or so. So,
yeah. Now Matt introduced me to Michael. Boy, why am I having such brain cramps today? I could see the guy's face. And it's on the Bacon Podcast, and Michael Haig, and baconpodcast.com. And if you go there and check that out, look up Michael Haig, just search his name. He did an incredible job of explaining, and he calls it Heroes 2 Story. It's a little different than the Hero's Journey or Heroes 2 Journey. And has a little different take on it. But he's a professional screenwriter, actually consultant. He's worked with Will Smith and a handful of other people, and he does talk about that, the 8 or 11, I don't remember which one it was, stories, but yeah, but it's a great podcast, something to check out to kind of dig into that. But he does talk about, if you can use that, and I've started to use that in blog writing, I've started to use that in writing books, I've started to use that concept, and it really helps bring the story in there. And that's one of the other things too. He talked about story, but he told a story. He used story in his presentation to get you emotionally connected with him. And I found that incredibly interesting, because you look at Matt Basek and you talk to him, and he's kind of a monotone kind of guy. He's kind of very level, always on the same. He's always in high gear. Let's put it in that way. He's in fifth gear 24/7, at least the way I see him. But it was really interesting to watch him, kind of when that story came on, watch him slow down, get emotional. It really coming from the heart, and it was just fabulous. So that was very interesting.
Stories are very important, and sometimes they're presented as case studies. Felicia says there are 7 basic Hollywood plots.
Yes, overcoming the monster. Thank you, Felicia, for the research. I appreciate it. Yeah, sad sack beginning. Remember that. I couldn't remember exactly what they were, but yeah. So that was really cool. Matt did a great job. And so we've got probably about 20 minutes left. Anybody want to jump in, say something? It's cool to be a fly on the wall. We'd love to have you in. Sheila, we're sorry couldn't get you in before. You want to try again? I'd love to have you in. Because that's what a Blab is all about. It's about community, and we want to hear what you guys thought. Anything else, aside from Matt, that really kind of, tripped your triggers, got you interested, taught you something?
Well, several years ago, when I was lucky enough to become an instructor at NAMS, I was sort of promoted from aides to instructor. David came up with this idea of having an instructor's mastermind. So it was kind of closed door, what's working for you. People were sharing things. It was funny. I don't know how Jeff did this, but Jeff was sitting there and his cell phone kept going off, ka-ching, 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 and he would say, "Well, made another sale. Whoop, made another sale." We were all jealous, Jeff, all very jealous. But I thought it was very cool to have a bunch of people at a certain level who were talking not about the basics, and the basics are important, and there are, the 100 and 200 rooms to get started with the basics. But the instructor mastermind, I thought was great. And so I have a couple of notes. You want me to share those?
Sure, please do. Yeah, because I was actually at a Blab for the first half, so I missed it.
Oh, yes, that's true. Well, one of the things that seems to be working pretty well is the idea of selling done-for-you services, not done with you or not teaching things. The idea of $37 products is waning. The market is saturated with those. They even said that memberships are waning. People drop off at the pitch, right? So they know at the 45-minute mark in a webinar, when the pitch begins, that they're seeing a lot of people who drop off. And then other people were sharing ways to keep people beyond, and maybe even making the pitch earlier than 45 minutes, or at least, sort of recapping the first 10 or 15 minutes of a webinar and saying, and what we're going to be talking about, there will be an offer at the end of this webinar is blah, 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 and then going right back into the webinar. Ben does webinars that are 45 minutes long. A lot of people don't want to sit through long webinars. But somebody was talking about Frank Kern doing 6 webinars that were all 2.5 hours long, and they sold a $1,600 product. And Frank, I guess, is just cleaning out all of his evergreen products and made well into 6 figures off of one webinar that he did live, and then he did autoplays after that. I think it was Dr. Ben said, don't do chat until the end. It's too distracting. So we've been on webinars and Blabs too, where the chat is open, and sometimes that gets a little distracting. And we've all seen side comments, so Ben uses stealth
webinar.
Yeah, and every webinar. He said a fake chat improves conversion. So he's somehow figured out a way to kind of do his own. More on the done for you idea. Coach Glue, Nicole Dean, and Melissa, their PLR is really done for you, right? So it's stuff that you can buy. And again, that makes it simpler. And the theme that we started off with early was, the people are looking to do things more simply and easily and automatically. Done for you, Jen Purdue dumps forms from that she bought from Nicole and modified a little bit into a Google folder, and that's how she onboards different clients. The idea of price points, right? So hobbyists will pay anywhere from $37 to $97 for a product, but most of the hobbyists will not go above that. So if you're really serious and you want to get up to $297 or $497, you have to approach that a little bit differently. The hobbyists, somebody made the comment, I thought this was very interesting, that hobbyists may spend $20,000 a year, but they won't spend more than $97 at a time. At
a time, right, yes. So true. So true. But, and the goal of all of that is to get them in the funnel. But that's where you got to figure out, again, it's getting back to that perfect avatar, who they are, what they are. And, one of the ways I found to really kind of do that is through conversations. It's like doing a group webinar afterwards of people that bought and find out who they are and what they do, and invite them in that way. That's one way to do it. So yeah, very, very cool. And Jeff Herring wanted me to mention that you did a lot of photography at NAMS and took a lot of great shots, and I personally appreciate that. I think a lot of the other people do too. So
nams.ws/n14 photos if you want to go. And I may actually have some pictures from the masterminds that still need to go up there, but nams.ws/n14/photos is where you can go. Please use those pictures. I get a kick out of seeing people use them, and that's what they're there for, is for you to use them. Deborah Lloyd liked a few of the pictures that I took when she was in the Shark Tank, and so she's going to put them into a video that she's using. So feel free to use them in your blog posts and whatever.
Yep, I'm pinning it right now. See if it'll come up for me. Come on, pin it, baby. Jeff put it in. I put it in. Is that the right URL? Can you see in the chat window?
I think so.
Awesome. Okay.
Could somebody check that? It's either nams.ws. No, not n14/photos, n14 photos.
Got it. Okay. All right. But it's up there. I just checked it, and so I clicked on Jeff's link and it worked. So.
All right, Jeff's link. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Yep.
Well, what about you? So I've got many more notes that I could share, but what if you had to go home and tell your wife NAMS was really worth it for A, B, and C, what would that be?
Well, for me, it's always I love all the information, and I again, I want to go back and watch a lot of these once the the recordings, the wonderful recordings that you did and I did, once they become live, I'm going to go back and listen to them. That's one of the benefits of being at NAMS. But really, it's more for me. It's about getting to know people on a one-on-one level is the most important thing for me. And it's not only just the instructors, because that's one of the cool things about being an aide is, you get to be up close and personal with a lot of the instructors. And some of these people probably wouldn't approach you as on a regular basis as just a regular attendee. So that relationship building is huge. And but also getting to know the attendees on a one-to-one level. There's a lot of interesting stories there. People that are really starting to get their arms around this, because it's a big nut to crack. I mean, we talk about internet marketing, but I mean, if you sit and look at all the different pieces of internet marketing, whether it's just setting up a website, creating a funnel, doing email marketing, all of those kind of things, it's really just watching those people get their aha moments, I think, is incredible too. I mean, I got to sit in on your session, and it was a lot of fun because in the middle of Kurt's session, I brought my my iPad and my phone, and we did a Facebook live stream and a Periscope stream at the same time, and had those up there. And I know Jeff Herring did the same thing. He actually had 4 streams going. He had the live webinar, the people in the room, and then a Facebook live and a Periscope at the same time. Which of course he is an overachiever, yeah. So had a nice little setup. But
I took a couple of good pictures of Jeff when he was doing that. I mean, it's really kind of,
yeah, it was cool.
If you haven't seen those, Jeff, go looking for them because there's some good, interesting shots.
Yeah, so that to me was kind of cool. It's just watching the way people taught, listening to the interactions. Sitting out in the lobby afterwards is one of my favorite things. It's just getting to know people on a, you're not sitting in that confined space. You're now one-on-one, just talking to people on a slightly different level and getting to know them, and they get to know you. And so that's really my biggest takeaway is the people. It always is. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I go to these things, is just getting to meet people, getting to know people. And that's really the big thing, because the trainings themselves are spectacular. I mean, I sat through, I don't know how many sessions. I mean, all of these, they're just great teachers and great content, and and the masterminds, again, like you said, one of the cool things about the masterminds was listening to the other people get their ahas. When it started to connect, and it started to really sink in that this is the way that they need to go next. Oh, it looks like we got a caller. One person's calling in. Is it Jeff?
Cool.
Yeah. So that I thought was really super cool. So there he is. Hey, Chubby.
You lost a little weight, Jeff.
Yeah.
Been working my fingers to the bone, guys.
Yeah.
Well, your head's above the rest, no question about it. How is Chubby this morning?
Chubby's doing well. Chubby's doing well. He's got his special garnet cap on. You guys know Ute made those two for me, a garnet one and a gold one. She was so sweet. She heard me talking on a webinar about my head getting cold up on the trail, and while she was recovering from her recent heart issue, she knitted these two things for me. So I thought that was awesome and sweet. Chubby's appreciating all the clap you're giving him.
Yep, absolutely. and that brings up another point. That was another thing I really love seeing was Ute sitting out at a book signing of her own book. That just melted my heart.
You know what that was to me, guys? That was not only the picture of NAMS 14, that was the best picture of all NAMS. To see her out there doing that was just, that was the coolest thing.
Yeah, that was cool.
I took a couple pictures. I think others did too.
Yeah,
but yeah, that was a heartwarming moment.
And thank you for those pics too, Kurt, of the whatever that thing I did that Thursday with the webinar. That was, the good thing about that was that at least I was hosting somebody. Jim got to talk. I didn't have to talk that much because monitoring all four of those things was a little exhausting. I was tired after that.
I bet.
But what a great experience doing that. So you promote content, and that's another way of doing it. So what was your biggest takeaway from doing that? Did you learn anything from that?
Well, it was kind of a work in progress. The way it came about, the original intention was I was going to do that 4 o'clock webinar, probably in my room with a few of my Results Now Insider people, right? And so I get to the hotel on Thursday, and Regina and David are telling me they've got a room reserved for me because Niall and I are doing our thing on Thursday. And I'm like, no, Niall and I are doing our thing on Monday, but all right. So there was a room. So I thought, well, if there's a room, we'll do it in the room, right? And then they told me there was a projector and a screen. I went, okay, well, we'll do it in the room. We'll put it up on the screen, right? And then we'll have the live audience. I've done that before. And then I got thinking, I thought, well, I've got both my stands here. I've got my iPad, I've got my phone. Let's set up one for Periscope and let's set up another for Facebook Live, and just, we'll either set internet history or cause a tear in the space-time continuum.
Thankfully, that.
Yeah, I know. Now, a couple of takeaways. It would have been really nice if that had all been planned,
Yep.
Regina was great, and she got that into the schedule right away. But I would have loved to have a bigger studio audience. We had about 20 people there. And then to have announced it on Facebook and on Twitter and Periscope as well. But one of the cool takeaways from doing something like that is there were sales from each area. There were sales from right in the room, sales from the webinar, sales from Periscope, and sales from Facebook Live.
That's awesome.
So that was.
I was going to ask you which of those channels performed best for you, and you're saying all of them.
Yeah.
Really
Now the best that day was the webinar because that was the one most planned for and that most people knew about. So I want to see what will happen as we go forward when those things are more announced. I'm telling you, you guys already know I'm all in with this live video stuff. I mean, we're doing one right now, right?
Right.
I mean, you can put a skeleton in place of you if you're not ready to go on camera. I mean, how great could this? Hi guys, how great could this be? And to me, it's the perfect combination of content and video. Okay, because people, as I make that connection for folks, that this is content marketing. It's just a different delivery. It's like this. Oh, as my mom used to say, comes the dawn. And really, I mean, otherwise, you guys have seen the Blabs, you guys have seen the Scopes, you guys have seen the Facebook Lives where people just come on and sort of stare at the camera or eat chips or talk nonsense, right? But if you come on and deliver good content like you guys have been doing. This is a great review of the takeaways from NAMS. Or like in the live video secrets course, we've got live video content templates. I mean, this is a great way to deliver your content. And I'm so glad you guys are doing it. I mean, part of the reason I'm so passionate about it, I want my people to get in on this now. So 2 years from now, they're not going, man, I wish I'd have done that. Because I really do believe this is where everything's going.
No, I totally agree with you. And the interesting thing, Jeff, is I was teaching at a university, actually 2 different universities, Olivet Nazarene and then down at Illinois State University. And the millennials, the Gen Zs, they don't know. They've never heard of Blab. They didn't know Periscope. They know Instagram. They know stuff like that. But they are not in the mode of understanding video streaming. And so that I thought was incredibly interesting. And it really opens up the door for us seasoned professionals to kind of jump on board and make some hay with it.
I really like that seasoned professional frame.
Thank you.
I think that's very true of all 3 of us here. That stuns me, though. The millennials were not familiar with
Blab or Periscope. Huh? Nope. Facebook Live, but they're not on Facebook that much. You know, they're all using Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram. Those are their platforms.
Wow.
You know, kids are leaving Facebook in droves because their moms are getting on there.
I like what Ellen's saying. Salt and pepper seasoning, right?
I like it. Yep.
Pepper. I'm all salt. So that really does amaze me that millennials are not up to speed with that. Well, that opens up a whole great market for us, right?
Exactly. Yes, it's getting people to understand that it's there and then how to use it. And
but that goes back to the idea of the avatar. Who are they? What do they want? And where do they hang out? Because if you're doing something on Blab and your people are not hanging out on Blab,
right,
that's not worthwhile anymore.
Well, the ones I've discovered, because I actually I jump on Blab just randomly, especially when I'm setting one up and just see what people are doing. And when you get into the younger generation, they're using it kind of like Snapchat with long form, so they can talk to their friends. So right. they're adapting it to the way that they want to use it, as opposed to, like right now we have a talk show going with a skeleton, which is super awesome. I probably, this is the only talk show with a skeleton live on Blab today. So
gotta be.
Yeah. So this is, maybe something very unique. Yeah, maybe it could be. Well, I'm sure Chubby's going to make another appearance someday. He's a star now.
If the show doesn't get canceled in an hour or two, then we'll be.
He does have his own Facebook page. He's becoming a bit of a celebrity.
He is a celebrity, especially, when I used him in the caption contest and he was sitting at the bar. Oh my God, I got so many great responses. That was perfect.
So much fun. Thank you for doing that.
Oh no, thank you, man. It was a great shot. I loved it. But yeah, I just think that, it's getting your arms around this stuff, and that's why I love going to, to NAMS and just seeing the way that people are using different things. It's a very, very unique community. It's not a big party, I haven't been on the cruise. I'm sure there's a lot of good connections and stuff like that. But, this is really kind of focused on relationships and content. And that's what I loved about it the most.
And those 2 words you just mentioned, because Phil was talking about, it all comes down to relationship building. And he's right. I mean, relationship and content, put those together and they're gold. And again, that's why what you guys are doing right here with the Blab and all these other ways of live casting combine those 2 in so many ways. I mean, one of the things that the early research is saying is that live videos like this are watched 3 times longer than recorded videos.
Yep.
Right? Because it's the interaction. And I've had so many people on my Facebook Live posts or casts, they're up there and they're replaying, right? And it's clear. I mean, there's a timestamp. There's a timestamp when people have commented. It's clear it's a replay, but people will come in and watch it and then ask in the chat, is this live? And it's because it's because of the relationship.
And, talk about Facebook Live. It's a huge pattern interrupt because if you're on Facebook and all of a sudden I see Jeff Herring's live, what do you want to do? You want to jump over and go see it. It's like, I don't care what I'm doing. I want to see what Jeff has to say. Because it's live, and it's happening now, and I can interact and have that relationship. So that's why I think the live stuff is so incredibly, it's so interactive, more so than the replays, like you said. You can do a video and throw it up on Facebook. That's nothing new. But the live thing is people want to interact with you on the spot, so I think that's cool.
And we get great people like Phil Breakfield here giving us a new name for this one, calling it a bare bones blab. Well done, Phil. Well done.
All right, Phil. Yeah. He's one of my favorite commenters on the caption contest, by the way.
Yeah, Phil's a good guy.
Yeah, good stuff. So we're getting close to the end here, guys. I like to keep it to an hour. So any closing thoughts from Mr. Chubby or Mr. Kurt or anybody else?
Did you call me Mr. Chubby?
No, I didn't call you Mr. Chubby.
Oh, okay. Okay. I've got 2 or 3 real quick notes. I know we have to get off thing. Going back to the idea of simplicity and automation, Dr. Ben Atkins recommended focusing on 5 things a day. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I love that, yes.
5 things done. Just focus on the 5 things, and you just have to get it done. What's the one thing that you want your business to do? And then set it up with, it could be automation, it could be passive income. How much income do you want? And then double it, right? So somebody said, well, if you think you want $100,000, you really need to shoot for $200,000 in order to achieve the first goal. But, what if you overshoot the goal? That, there's nothing wrong with that. Somebody else was talking about the power of doing assessments to categorize clients. Yep. David does it to put people in the 100, 200, 300, 400 rooms. But I thought that was a great idea. And then also the idea of selling first and then creating. And that's what, we talked about with Margaret was she didn't have to have it all created. And, if nobody's going to buy it, you don't want to have spent all kinds of time and money developing something. So, I thought those were some big takeaways. Love NAMS. Love being on the Blab today. Thank you much.
This was great. And, the only thing I can say about Chubby, he's a great spokesperson, but he really doesn't have any skin in the game. So I don't know if I trust him.
Make no bones about it. He cares, though.
I'm sure he does. Felicia said she had to come back just to see Chubby.
Well, you know what?
All right, guys.
Just in total transparency, she and I were Facebook messaging, and this whole thing's her idea. So so if you guys it was my idea. If you guys don't like this, it was Felicia's. So
that's awesome. Hey, Kurt, we should do. I'd like to do another one of these in a few weeks. Would be up for coming back and kind of talking about it after we had a chance to kind of let it all sink in. And Jeff, do you think Chubby could make a? Go ahead.
Just as long as I don't have to compete with Mr. Chubby.
Well, I was going to say, could we bring Mr. Chubby back as a guest host as well? That would be totally awesome.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of liking this. This may be the standard from now on.
I like it. I mean, you can be out of the room. You can have a wireless headset, walk all over the place, and you don't have.
He may be my stand now.
Yeah. So it's what you call bare bones marketing. I love it.
You really know how to put your finger on things there, Ryan.
Thank you, sir. Well, yeah, just don't. Well, never mind. All right, guys, this has been great. The replay will be up a little later today. So Chubby says goodbye, and I can't wait to introduce the world to Chubby. Blabwithbacon.com is where these reside, and like I said before, it's coming to you from CBS Central Bacon Studios. Make sure you check out the Bacon Podcast as well, and Blab with Bacon, this is what this is. So there's the Bacon Podcast, and blabwithbacon.com is where you're going to find all these things. So to everybody for joining us today, thank you so much for the questions. Sorry you couldn't jump in. And we will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.
Thanks.